The DJ Roundtable Show is live. It's the DJ Roundtable Show. Tell another DJ.
It is Tuesday night. It is 8 o'clock.
Please subscribe.
You know where DJ's at. I know where I'm at. I'm here with you. Yes, it's another DJ Roundtable, and I really don't say my name too much because usually people know who I am, but I am Buddy. I'm Buddy Mueller. I am your host for the evening. I'm here to have fun with you. A couple of people said that you don't mention your name. You mention everyone else's name, but your own, because you guys all know who I am. But that's a fun part. I always like to feel weird saying my own name. I always like to talk to you guys out there first or watching. I appreciate everyone coming in here. I want to thank you all who have subscribed to the channel over here on Twitch. And we're live on Twitch on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time here in the U.S. We go live and we have lots of fun, lots of guests, lots of great people here that come and stop by, lots of great DJs in the chat. This is where I get to chat and live chat, where people can ask questions in real time. If you are watching this over on YouTube, do me a favor, help me slay that beast. That beast is a mean mother, and she likes to knock us down as much as possible on YouTube, and that is the algorithm. If you could help me, do me a favor. Make sure you click the like button. Make sure you click subscribe. And make sure you follow. I see a lot of people out there. It's right now 77.4% because I can see every week what changes of those people watching the show who are not subscribed. So please do me a favor, subscribe. Help me grow this channel. Help make it better for everyone, and share it with another DJ. That's right. Share the video with another DJ. Share it with your friends. Share it with whomever you like to. And the people who subscribed, thank you so much. It's greatly appreciated. Welcome to the area. Welcome to the zone. Or welcome to the DJ world. Whatever way you want to look at it. Welcome. Well, first thing first, we have a recurring guest. We may have to make them permanent because they have so much fun with us. It is a sound couple, all you from beautiful Minneapolis, Minnesota area, the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul. I guess we got to start talking baseball soon, see what the Twins are going to do this year. The White Sox, they finished, my beloved White Sox, they finished their preseason already, and we had the White Sox opening Thursday of this week, and the Cubs had their last game today. I was watching the news. Brantley, your Cubs won today, so they actually won. So, yeah, I'm a Cubs fan. If you're Chicago, you know, and again, I'm in Chicago, and as always, we have people from all around the country, and sometimes people from all around the world. It all boils down to who, what, where, when, why, and how. I always like to see what's going on. We don't have our Australian. He keeps having technical difficulties, but hopefully we'll get that worked out with him. We also have a bunch of other people here tonight. As always, some great DJs from New York to California, from Georgia to Ohio to the Land of Cheese, Wisconsin. Don't forget DJ Brantley up there. He is not far from the sound couple. He's between us and them. And he has his little World of Lacrosse. Please watch the World of Lacrosse on Code Blue Cam. They have lots of shenanigans going on there. And Brantley would be more than glad to tell you some really great stories about the craziness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is.
There's so much.
It is a lot of shenanigans. And, Pete is coming in now, another fellow Chicago DJ. And we're going to have him in here in just a second. Let him get in here, get him going. And Brantley, you want to make sure your volume's up good. And,
how's that?
Yeah, okay, that's good.
All right.
I got to send you a new mic for Christmas.
It's just this PreSonus thing.
Yeah, I don't know. PreSonus, this is a PreSonus. They have good stuff. I don't know. Pete, welcome. And he hasn't been here before. We had the sound couple on before. But sound couple, again, like before, they are out of the Twin Cities. They do professional sound for bands. And Bart, sometimes doubles as a DJ, does a little music, pre-selected music for the fill-ins for the bands. But you do a lot of sound for bands and for professional use, as well as some public address. And they have some really cool ideas. They are a husband and wife team, much like my wife, which she's actually watching TV, Tracy, but Pete knows my wife, Tracy, and Tracy works with me on my gigs, and it's lovely to have your wife with you. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes you're like, man, why do I have this other person with me? Because I just want to yell and scream. But, you know, having that other person there to keep you grounded is always great. And again, if you want to watch their adventures, their link will be down below, as well as everyone else has a YouTube channel. Their links are down below. Please like them, follow them, subscribe, and watch the shenanigans they do at their gigs. Well, first thing first, having a great sound is important, and having great amount of sound sometimes is important. And when you have a larger event, when you have a wedding of 300 or 400 people, you need to have something that you will cover an area. And I know that, again, the Sound Couple, they run arrays. They run full-size arrays, not the comm arrays, not the portable arrays or line arrays, not the smaller ones. They basically just follow they have the bigger ones. They're not the full-size flying arrays like you see at, like, you know, Taylor Swift or something like that, but they're very close to it, and they're actually very good quality. And I was talking a little bit about this past weekend. I was at a wedding show at a casino, and they have in the casino for the area where they had the wedding show, they had L-Acoustics arrays. They had flown arrays. They had subwoofers there at the stage. So they have a full suite of audio there. And they can cover in there for an event seated about 700 people, standing about 1,000 people. And it got me thinking, especially with the Sound Couple coming on here, what's the biggest amount of people you've done for an event? Is it been 200 people? Is it 100 people? Is it 500 people? And I know our biggest event, and I talk about it every so often, Tracy and I, is 360. It's a wedding. The bride's immediate family was 120 people. That was brothers, cousins, you know, like immediate family, because both the mother and father on her side had multiple brothers and sisters. So the mother and father they had tons of uncles and aunts and tons of cousins, to say the least, and their other halves as well. So this was a very, very big, and they had a receiving line, which Tracy and I just stood there and like I wouldn't recommend that, but you know, it's not our thing. It's the couples a day. We let them do what they need to do and have fun. But it's one of the things when you do an event that big, you know, you sometimes can feel overwhelmed on it. And one of the things we got in a habit after that, and again, we had more than enough sound, not a problem, but we got in a habit afterwards of asking how many people. And when I do my pricing, I do my pricing based on amount of people. Smaller wedding, you don't need a big, huge sound system. Again, I have Maui 5s. 130 people, 100 people, 80 people, 30 people. I've done a wedding last year, is 35 people total. And, you know, when you have a smaller wedding like that, you need a smaller, you know, speaker system. You don't need to have subwoofers, and you don't need to have this big, huge system. But when you go to the opposite end, when you get into a 300 person, 400 person, 500 person wedding, you need to have some big guns. So my question to you is, when you need big sound, who do you go to? Who do you turn? Now, I'm going to go to the Sound Couple on this, and I'm going to give them a scenario a little different from us DJs, because they do bands. But for the two of you, when you talk to your clients, when you talk to the band, do they tell you how many people they're expecting, or do you reach out to the couple, and do they tell you how many people they have RSVP'd for the event? And do you look at the event space to try and cover every square inch of the space, or do you look at the dance floor and the band area as your hot area, and the rest of the room kind of warm and filled with music?
Yeah. Well, first, I think the weddings are a unique situation compared to like an outdoor street dance or club or something like that. But for the weddings, typically we draw that imaginary line around the perimeter of the dance floor, and that's the area we want to cover. Usually that works okay as far as speeches. It kind of all coincides with that. But yeah, for weddings, usually that perimeter dance floor, making sure that's covered, that allows the people that want to talk or do other things. You know, we're not trying to fill the room when it comes to weddings in most cases. Well, in every case.
And when you do that, when you talk to your again, when you talk to the band, when you talk to the facility, do you kind of get an idea how big that dance floor is, how big the room is, or do you go off on pictures, or do you actually go there and do a visit, or how do you determine that?
Well, we usually get a guest count. We know what that is beforehand, and we typically are familiar with probably 60 to 70% of the venues we do. So we have a good sense of that. The configuration can change a little bit as far as where they maybe set up the band and things like that. But yeah, we to me, it's more about the guest count, perhaps. But then when we arrive, we'll take a listen to the room as well, because not all rooms are made the same. As far as we've been in some ballrooms where they're very live, and we've erred on the side of almost bringing in too much sometimes, and it's like, wow, we didn't really need to bring in that much. It's not always easy to make that call up front. And then the other thing too that impacts is just the energy of the people. We've had situations where these people are just ready to go, and we're really surprisingly pushing our system a lot harder than we thought we would. So there's a lot of variables that, even if you know the room, you know how many people are going to be there, just the whole vibe of how that event's going to go down, you don't really know until you get into it. And we try to like have more than we need, so we're not ending up, putting our system to taking it to its limits. But sometimes you get it wrong, and you just have to. Sometimes your gears got to work a little bit harder than you really like it to, or you're done. But for weddings, that typically doesn't happen. I mean, we typically go with like a sub and one speaker. That gets us through 80% of our weddings.
So for the lighting guru, the other half of the sound couple, I got to ask you a question. Now, I know you guys put up a gig log that you did lighting for the dance floor. And I know you guys worked on that very hard to make sure you cover the dance floor as well as cover the band. When you have a larger crowd, when you run into a crowd that's 300 people and they want dance floor lighting, you're not going to have all 300 people on the dance floor. That's first thing. You maybe have half, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, but you may have 100 people, you may have 80 people on the dance floor. But it's going to be a good-sized crowd versus even a 100-person wedding. You may have 20 people on the dance floor. Big difference between 20 and 80. When you do that and someone asks for that, have you ever thought about doing corner remote lighting, and coming in on from the back, kind of like they do at concerts, where they actually put a truss up and run lighting from the back part of the room into the dance floor onto the stage?
Well,
No, can't say that we have.
no, we haven't. And part of it is our lighting isn't really strong enough. I wouldn't, it wouldn't, yeah, it'd be difficult to throw it that far, say like 50 feet or whatever. We just don't have anything that powerful.
I'd also be hesitant to be putting things on the corners on a tripod and worrying about people crashing into them.
Yeah, creating more tripping hazards. We do like to kind of contain our space as much as we can, so we're not taking up more area than we need to. And we kind of look at that staging area and around it kind of as our spot. We try to keep our footprint minimal in that respect.
I have I run the Astera light tubes, pixel tubes, and I usually have a couple up by me, up, you know, a set of two up high, set lower, and then I have, depending on the floor, how big the crowd is, I will put two more on the edge of there. And do people bump into them? Yeah, they have knocked them over, but again, you're talking a 2.5, 3 foot tall light. But I've seen DJs usually near a column run lighting, dance lighting, put right next. I mean, literally right next to a column that's near the dance floor. Put up a. And I know you guys do LED parts. A set of LED parts. Put them up about 10 feet in the air, and you know they have the tripod. You know, basically almost like embedded into the column, and they're on lighting that way just to give some more lighting from the back onto there. Now we hit the dance floor for us. But that might be something to cover a dance floor and also cover a little bit of the stage. Again, you're not going to get the brightest light, you know, unless you have someone up there with a spotlight and you can hire another person to do that. I wouldn't, but, you know, some people want to do that. They put remote moving heads out there and stuff like that. But I've seen some people do that, and it's like that would be kind of cool to do if I had a big, huge wedding. I knew there was columns I could put lights in there. So I'm going to go over to the DJs now, which, again, a little bit different thought, a little different way of doing things, because as DJs, we do stuff a little bit different. And Mike also asked a question, do you do a different price for a 300-person wedding versus a 35-person wedding? And I will tell you, I do. I have different pricing for the amount of people. You know, I have pricing for a wedding for 80 or less. I have a price for a wedding of 130 or less. I have pricing for 180 or less. Once you're over 180, I charge additional fees, especially when you start getting a 300 or 400 person wedding. And the reason why is that I may run side fill speakers, run wirelessly, you know, depending how big of a room is. And we did a scenario with Bart and with Sean on the videos on YouTube of him doing a possible awards banquet and doing sound and running sound on the side, keeping his equipment he has, not for him to go out and buy extra equipment, but he has a very good depth of two-way cabinets. And sometimes, you know, when you go look at two-way cabinets, how many do you need? What size do you need? And if you need to have, you know, 20, do you have 30? No. But sometimes with bigger weddings, you want to have those side fill speakers and have multiple speakers at lower volume and covers the area much larger versus having two big speakers and blasting. Now, I know people are out there saying, you know, hey, go get a pair of Evolve 90s or get this or get that. I have a pair of DB 1002s, very, very powerful speakers, dual 12-inch subwoofers, very, very strong, and I've used them at a couple of bigger events, but they only had like 200 people. If I started to get above that and more depth, I would definitely throw side speakers in and do side fill and keep the volume in the front lower and to keep the volume on the side. Now, when the dance floor opens, you kill the side speakers. You just have the main speakers for the dance floor. But during cocktail, dinner, speeches, you want those multiple speakers to fill the room up. I'm going to start actually with Pete, because Pete has many years of doing this and having fun with sound. Pete, how do you handle a 200 plus person wedding? 200, 300. What was the biggest wedding you've done?
First of all, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, sir.
Okay. My LEDs went orange. I wasn't sure. For a 250 person wedding, I'd probably bring at least a couple extra tops. Like I've said previously, I don't necessarily run subs. So I might bring, you know, an extra pair of tops and just stack the two tops on top of each other and space them out, or put some side fills. I have some speakers that can use side fills to get down to the deeper parts of the room. Try to keep most of the sound on the dance floor if you can. As far as pricing, it's based more on the equipment than it is on the number of people. Obviously a larger crowd, you're going to need more. So I'll probably charge for extra equipment, maybe an extra sound system. But other than that, I don't really do too much.
When more people you have, the more, again, more equipment, but also sometimes the more headaches you have, especially with requests or with, stuff to do and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So that's one of the things I also look at when I do bigger weddings. Again, I'm blessed to have Tracy with me, but we have a couple employees as well. And we'll pull in one of our employees to help cover, basically be a gopher, go to the request table, grab the request sheets, help with things. And then a nice thing with that, I can give them my camera and have them go out there and record some video too, so I can show people stuff, especially like, you go into bigger events, but also they're helping with tech stuff too. If I'm running, side fill speakers, it's nice that they can turn them off and I can kill them and get them talking, have them ripped down and put away, and then maybe into the van for the rest of the night. That way they're out of the way, no one bumps into them too. Pete, what's the biggest amount of biggest wedding you've done?
Wedding, probably, I think it was around 450 maybe. But I have done events larger than that,
Okay.
but not weddings. You may know that I used to be the mobile DJ for Dick Biondi, and one of his annual gigs was a fundraiser for Brother Rice High School. And I think one year they were like 1,500 people in the gymnasium. And because I'm not a big sound guy, I'm scraping together whatever I can find from friends and neighbors. So friends had some homemade subs, so I'd use those, and then I'd just put up every top that I had.
And that's the thing, is that when you look at stuff like that, when you have to do sound for an event, an awards or something like that, it's a little bit different than doing a wedding. But some things are similar because you have people talking and speaking,
Yeah.
and you're not looking at a lot of the lower end. You're looking at more of the vocal quality, and you're having maybe some music, but you're also looking at, if you're having a panel or something like that talking. That's the things. These are the things when you're talking to someone about an event. What do you need to do? What do you want to do? And that's one of the things you want to have and also look at. I'm going to go over to Chris. Chris, I know you do the phone parties and stuff like that, and you have a crazy amount of people. But what is your biggest event, and how do you handle big events for sound?
Quite a good number, quite a good number of years ago, I helped out a lot of other companies doing wedding setups, and the biggest event that I've done for a number of years back, say 2015, a little earlier, was a festival for a college, and that was over easily 800 students outdoors, and the college already has the big stage. We're already up, 7-8 feet above where we are, so everything's put on the stage right down to the students' level. So we had the big stage all set up, and we had to bring multiple speakers from the DJ company I was working with. So they actually had to get mine because he didn't have enough. And at that time, all I had was JBL PRX 515s to help with the sound reinforcement, to give him plenty of push out to that crowd. He had only one sub and one he borrowed from a friend and two of his own. So he actually just had an upgrade of what he had. I don't remember what he had, but then he also had the first gen QSC K12s. He had a whole bunch of those ready to go, used them for more fill. But he also had a lot of passive speakers. He had some Klipsch that he brought in. He's the one who said, "Oh, let's set this all up. Let's go in and out on all these." He didn't have much in processing equipment, but we were able to put on a very big sound event for the college locally where I am. As for a wedding, I've helped out a DJ. He did a 300-person wedding, ended up being in one massive room that is always sectioned off, but they opened up the whole thing. He had to put sound reinforcement. This DJ was using 4 E8Ws and another E8W sub, all passive at the time. So he had to run all that, high-powered speaker wire from those amps. So he had me help him set that
That's a
up.
lot of speak on and a lot of amps to run and a lot of
Yes, it was. It was all speak.
Yeah, a lot more stuff going on there. And this is the thing with passive speakers do have a place. It's very interesting. Like L Acoustics, all passive. They have a ramp, a rack of amps to run them, and you got to run speak on cables, and they run through a processing system. They're very, very interesting speakers. If you guys get a chance, you can look up L Acoustics. Very cool technology. But it's a passive system. The speaker's passive. The amplifier and processor system is very unique to them. When you go into a passive speaker and you run the speak on, those are thicker cables. You run into not so much more problems, but if an amplifier goes down, you may lose 2 or 3 speakers versus a powered speaker. You may lose 1 speaker, but still have other speakers still working. So there's pros and cons to everything. And there's give and take and everything. So it's one of the things when you look at stuff like that, do you lose a whole entire rack of speakers or do you just lose 1 speaker? And it's always interesting. And, having a passive speaker, I started with passive speakers and I know them very well. I had Crown Amp and I had JBLs. Great speaker, great amps. But the thing is that I'm glad I went to powered fairly quickly because it's just the headaches and the complications much, much lower. Bart, for you, have you ever did passive speakers, or you always did powered speakers?
No, we started out on passive speakers for years. We had an EAW system, racks of Crown and Crest and QSC throughout the years, and it wasn't until about 2016 or so, 2017, that we made the jump to powered speakers. Just like you said, there's advantages and disadvantages of both, but I'll just say this, now that we're powered, it would be really hard to go back to those heavy amp racks again. So
Yeah,
Just out of curiosity, guys, who's your favorite amp manufacturer? What did you guys use mostly when you were on a passive system?
well, the one I was most proud of was our Crown Macrotech amps because they were just cool. But those were the only ones that ever failed us. As far as like absolute workhorse, probably the QSC PLX. That's when they got really light. We had some the Crowns were heavy. We had some really heavy Crest. We're talking amplifiers that were weighing anywhere between 50 to 75 pounds a piece in a rolling rack, and that I don't miss those days. But yeah, the Macrotech Crowns were the coolest because I was just so happy to have them. But the QSCs were the longest running workhorses for us.
You ever use any of the PIP cards to enhance those amplifiers? And
No. I bet
had
you
to play
can't
with
even
those in
find
the
any
nightclub.
of that now.
right? Oh, I still have them.
Oh, okay.
Do you know anybody that's looking to dib and dabble? There you go.
Man,
Yeah, the Crown Macrotechs are great.
it's fun when you play with passive speakers sometimes because it's like there's so much things you can add to that rack and stuff like that, and just change things around. And it's you have to know math because you got to figure out what does this amplifier this amplifier run this speaker. You got to know ohms, you got to know all this stuff, and there's tips and tricks to all that stuff. It's all fun.
Buddy, it's a lost art from building and designing your rack. I mean, that was like, I remember drawing out sketches, this amp's going to go here, and then making all the wiring with the speaker cables so the lengths were right, putting
Full
the noise
schematic.
connectors together. Pardon me?
It's a full schematic.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say I miss it, but it was a thing. Building the rack was half the fun, I think.
Did you make your own cables?
Yes and no. When it comes to like some of that stuff, for sure, because it's a lot cheaper and you can tailor the lengths. But as far as like our stage And lighting goes, no, we don't. I don't make any of that. We just buy it off the shelf.
Yeah, I never got into making cables. To me, it's much easier and cheaper to buy a good quality XLR cable or good quality speak-on cable, because believe it or not, with the arrays I use, I still have a speak-on cable. The top to the bottom of the unit is connected by a speak-on cable. So I still had to deal with speak-on, for cabling, and I still got to deal with for powering the top half of the unit. So it is interesting. The like LD and the EVs and some of the other column arrays or line arrays, they basically have internal connectors in that column.
Yeah.
Versus on RCF and the DB, they actually use a sub pole between the bottom half and the top half, and then you run a cable in the back. And it's always fun because I have a couple different lengths of speak on, and actually, I've talked about this picture before. The one that I have, the two DB tops on gravity, basically gravity stand copies, and I have the bottom halves hidden. That speak-on cable going across the back down there, and thank God they have this little groove in the back. You put the cable in there to hide it, because those, as we know, speak-on cables are much, much thicker than an XLR cable and a power cable. They're pretty hefty. I'm going to go over to Matt over there, because he looks like he's having some fun in California. And I know you got some. You have done some really big school events. What do you usually? I know you got dual 18s, you got dual 21s. But when you run into a large event, what do you use? What's your go-to stuff? What do you try and do? And a wedding, 300-400 people, or again, I know you've done some school events with 500, 1,000 kids. What do you do? What's your stuff you do?
Kind of depends on the package. I'm getting an echo on me too. Maybe it's mine.
Yeah, I'm not hearing.
Do you guys hear an echo?
No, I don't hear an echo.
It's me then.
Yeah, I'm hearing it too, and I had my mic muted.
Weird. Get back to me. Let me reconnect.
Okay. Let's go over to Sean as Matt comes back in. A little technical difficulties. Sean, what about you, sir? What do you do for the bigger events?
Yeah, so biggest wedding was last year. I did 360 to 380. For that one, I ran 4 EV tops and then 2 EV subs for that one. I had the 2 of the EVs for side fill. Biggest event I've ever done was about 1,200 for an air show for the EAA. That one I just did 6 tops, spread out essentially all the way down a runway. Pricing, my packages, 250 and under is pretty much a set price. I'm bringing 2 EV tops and 2 EV subs with that. After the 250, I'm custom quoting them based on what I'm going to bring for the event.
And when you do that, when you talk to your client, the couple or the business or wherever the event is, or like when you talk to the school about the awards, and when you talk to them about that, it's one of the questions you ask is how many people, correct?
Yeah, so I'm asking how many people. I'm usually pulling up the venue, looking at it from photos if I haven't been there before, just kind of getting a feel for the space and the size of the crowd.
Of course, knowing what kind of event it is always key too, because you got to figure out, is it this like when we were talking about your awards ceremony. One of the things we talked about is able to turn off the subwoofers during speeches and then kick the subwoofers back on for music for the dance part of the reward ceremony. And that's another thing too, is to have that flexibility to do things. I feel is very, very important. And I know the Sound Couple, they do a lot of that kind of stuff because again, they're doing sound for speeches or something like that. You don't want that low end grunt because you don't want feedback. But when the music hits, and again, they do with bands or whatever music source they have, they want to have the music have a more balanced feel, for it. Now, I want to see a quick show of hands. Who here has had or has QSC speakers?
I do now.
Okay. We got 2 people at QSC. So it's one of the things I know QSC, I see here from Adrian. He's had a QSC RMX 2450 amplifier, I believe. I ran Crown amps, so I'm not familiar with QSC's amps. You're gonna say, Bart? You're gonna say something?
Oh, no. Yeah, the RMX, they were probably about 20 years ago, maybe. They're, believe they're a little bit older series now.
Yeah,
I
they're.
don't remember what they are.
Hold on one second here.
Never got back to me.
There we go. We just had a little spammer come up on the chat. So, yeah, I ran QSC I1000 1001 was one of the amps I ran, 1,000-watt amp, because the speakers can handle 250 at 8 ohms. Because you gotta do all that math, because if you have this ohms, you go this power. You go this ohms, you go that power. You know, because you always gotta like match stuff up. And I could tell you, with the amp, I melted a few voice coils on the tweeters. I finally found Brian S. Rudd on YouTube and upgraded my tweeters to the Selenium tweeters, and didn't melt any tweeters after that. But the JBL tweeters, I melted them a bunch of times, and it sucked. I got into changing out tweeters.
That's the one thing I don't miss. We don't have any issues since we've gone powered. I don't think maybe one or two speakers we've had to get repaired. But man, yeah, we used to do that a lot more when we were running the passive cabinets, because even if you do it right, or you think you're doing it right, it just seems it's the manufacturers and how they design the amps and integrate it in with the cabinet. I mean, they got it dialed in so much better than we ever could with an external processor. So that has been a big plus of having powered speakers.
Well,
for
one
us.
of the things also is that Crown is and JBL is basically the same company. They're all Harman, and I believe Harman got bought by, I want to say Samsung or someone. Someone bought them. Someone could tell me in the chat, but someone bought Harman Kardon a little while ago. So again, when you go with Crown stuff was really, really good. But it always seemed like Crown never talked to JBL and JBL never talked to Crown, because you always get a mismatch on the two of them. And that's amps to run this speaker, but you run into problems sometimes. And again, burning out tweeters is not fun to do, especially in the middle of an event. All of a sudden you have no highs. It's like, oh, that's great. What happened? I ran my speakers too hot. That sucks. Did that once or twice. Samsung. Adrian E says Samsung. Yeah, that's what I thought. I couldn't. I wanted to say Samsung, but I didn't want to say the wrong company. But I'm going to go back to Matt. Matt, when you do larger events, again, what do you do? What's your poison?
I mean, for larger stuff, I'll bring out the big subs. I mean, for most weddings, 200 or less, the single 18s on each side with a top is plenty. If it's a long throw venue, a bigger venue, or just a giant crowd or giant room, I'll bring the NXLs just because they have a wider dispersion pattern and they throw a bit farther than traditional tops. But otherwise, yeah, the duals, they're just unbeatable. Plus, you don't have to worry about limiting or pushing them. I never like to push a system too hard. But I do like, since you talked about QSC or brought it up, I do like the new KC12s. Shameless plug to go watch my video. QSC's sending me out a free swag bag for the video. I talked to their marketing guy over there. Couldn't get him to send me the speakers, but I got them at dealer cost. So, can't complain.
So you're impressed with the arrays from QSC?
Yeah, they sound great. They really do. The subs, I think, is where it could use a little bit of improvement. Once you are really pushing like a heavy volume, the subs, I think adding, a 15 under your table or an 18 under your table just to add in that extra low end would be great. But I was standing out there on the dance floor and still hearing the bass just fine. It's well balanced. It sounds great. They throw nice and far. Well, not super far, but they carry, and they sound really good. They yeah, I'm impressed. So I'm keeping them. I needed a smaller system in white just to because I do sell an all white package, and the only all white package I had before is my giant dual 18s and giant tower speakers. So yeah, these are great. I like them. I will say the HK audio subs hit lower and hit harder, but those columns also sounded like crap.
Oh wow. Okay. So you heard it here that actually the QSC KC12s are approval by Matt, by DJ Solstice. So if
And
you're
that's rare.
wondering
That's rare.
about the QSC K12s, Matt approves. So that's important. You know, I know one thing you said about is the seam between the two pieces of the column. And you saw
they fixed
pre-production at the at NAM. Is it much better in production?
Yes, yes. It also has to do with how you put it in. So if you insert the top and kind of wiggle it forward a little bit, it closes that gap in the front. But if you just kind of like loosely put the top in, then you're still going to see. I mean, there's still a seam, but it's hardly noticeable now compared to like at the show at
feet
NAMM.
away, you're not going to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely fixed it. And that's the thing is they had I think I discussed a while ago is that they had a firmware and quality control issue. So you could tell the box was open, the unit was inspected again because there was another quality recheck with a date on it on the back of each sub. So they went through and updated firmware, checked all the subs, and made sure all the screws were there. And really good cases too. The subwoofer case that you buy for it has a really not a metal plate, but like a really thick cardboard or some sort of plate in the front of it where the grill is. So if you're moving those around and you bang that front part where the grill is into something, it should be safe. It's a real nice, heavy duty.
A little extra protection.
Yeah, it's a nice bag, and the top bags are real nice. There's a nice little cardboard or foam padding. They're made. They put some effort into it. It's a really well made column. I'll say that.
Good. I'm glad to hear that, and glad to hear that you're happy, especially you put out money out for them. Doesn't matter if you get dealer costs or you pay full, map price and anything, is always getting good pricing and stuff. And speaking of good pricing, I'm gonna go with DJ Brentley, which it's always someone who has fun. And Brentley, when you do big events, and I know you have a lot of different sound systems and a lot of different stuff, what's your go-to equipment? What's your fun stuff you like to play with? And what's the biggest amount of people you've done for an event?
So, well, the biggest amount I've DJ'd for is probably like 10K, 12K, doing the tailgate party at Stadium View in Green Bay.
Was that your equipment, or is that on a different sound system?
That's theirs. That's theirs.
For what you
but
did.
For my
you
own
did
gear,
your sound system.
For weddings, the biggest wedding I've done is probably at Celebrations on the River and Center Court. And I think it was like 425, maybe 430. And that's why in that room in particular, like you were asking me about it before, why I have the two speakers up with me by the booth. Part and parcel, I do want to get some noise from them myself, but I know I need a little bit more throw. So that's why I have the two speakers on and subs on the floor itself. Because obviously putting the subs up with me is going to hit the glass, reflect, and bounce everywhere. So I have those and because LD, the ICOAs, have the two inserts that you can angle them down, it lets me hit the floor this way and then kind of do the whole. And I haven't had many phase issues, to be perfectly honest, which is kind of nice. But that's when I'll use like my two RCFs now, what are they, the HD15As or whatever, and my AS702s. I don't even remember. I haven't looked at them in so long. And then I'll use my LD ICOAs in the center, and it gives a really good balance. The ICOAs are far brighter and crispier than the RCFs. And I've had them for 2 years now, and I'm still figuring out what nuances and what frequencies I need to dial in and out on the speaker and on my soundboards. And it's definitely more room to room, but even Celebrations this weekend, I was having a little trouble controlling them.
Just wait
It
till
just
the
didn't-
when the ICOA Pro Series comes out. You won't have to worry about any of that. It sounds so good. But I know your struggle. I had those ICOAs, and they're so hard to dial in.
and there's sometimes like if I'm in center court and I've got the RCFs and my RCF subs, for some reason it's like okay, everything just balances out. The brights are kind of level because the RCFs don't have all that to them, so it's super nice with it. But yeah, this weekend they were really kind of fighting me, and I was on my graph on my EQ rack the whole time. So yeah, and it's really making me think: have I finally outgrown them? And
So-
what you're saying, there's new stuff coming, and yeah, I don't need to buy gear. I just have, but it would be nice.
And one of the things is, especially with philosophies, different manufacturers, you got to remember RCF being Italian, FPT being Italian. LD is a German company, a little different thought of doing things. It seems like the Italian manufacturers are a little bit more warmer than the German manufacturers. LD, I've listened to my LD Maui 5 versus, again, power difference between the two. The Maui 5 versus the RCF J8s. Yeah, they're similar in certain aspects, but the sound quality between the two, there is a difference.
Oh yeah,
The LD sound a little bit more horny, and then not horny like dirty wise. It has a little bit more of a brighter sound to it, versus the RCFs have a little bit more of a middle tone and more of an even sound throughout. And that to me is a huge thing.
They definitely do, and granted, for the price point, that's why I got the fives. I'm like, you know what? I don't need. I'm only getting these for the weddings I have less than 100 people. I'm not trying to use them for like the wedding I had this weekend, where, yeah, there were 130, 140 that stayed for the party, but they were a loud group of people, and I knew it going in. And this is something that Sean, you said, talking to your couples. By the time we get to that point where I'm figuring out what equipment I'm bringing, or I know, I'm going through that day and making my list of gear, I know exactly how many people or who they've invited, the number of heads, and you can always estimate 300 people, it's going to be 265 people, no matter what. 35 people are not going to show up. And by the time you get to the dance of the night, you'll have 125, 130 people on your dance floor if you're lucky. Because all the older folks that aren't physically capable may get up for that one token slow song, but they're not going to be out there raging with the 21 or the 20, even 19, 18-year-olds, all the way to about 45. I'll scale that back to 40. That demographic is your main preoccupant of the dance floor. Everybody else, if you can get one or two dances out of them, you've done really well. And you have to really base your equipment on that. And like you were saying, having satellite speakers that you can turn off once the dance starts. In a room like Celebrations, there's no, like in center court there's no real point for me to do that. But if I'm in their other big room, the courtyard room, I should be definitely having one here and then satelliting a speaker to the other side of the room so it hits correctly. I haven't really had to because they haven't overfilled that room yet. And when they were selling weddings to that room, it was originally meant to be a room, 150 or less. And then they tripled the size of the room one year and had the weddings meant for 150 or less in a 300 head room. So I've never really needed to pump a lot in that room yet. June is the first real wedding where I've got, I think, 350 in there with photo booth, officiant, sparks, dancing on the clouds. So it's the first time I'm really getting to see what this room's like, completely maxed out.
Well, it'll be interesting gig log there for you. It'll be interesting to see.
Oh, I've got the kid. I've got somebody running music for the ceremony. Sean Carlson and Carlson Entertainment are going to be doing videography for it, and they also do their DJ. They were mainly DJs until very recently when they expanded a little bit. So it's going to be one chaotic, crazy day. Like the day before, I didn't take any gigs because I knew going into it, it's going to be an utter nightmare. And I'm going to get there at like 7 or 8 in the morning at the venue with all my equipment. So by noon, I can take, because they're taking over 2 of the rooms in the venue, I can take one of the groomsmen suites, go crash, change, chill for a couple hours, and then be ready to go on site because I know we're going until 1 a.m. as well. So that's going to be one of those weddings that, oh yeah, but and here, like you know, price tag for it, having the right equipment for it, and everything else, they're paying a pretty penny across the board. One of the most expensive weddings I've ever sold.
That's good for you. But again, crown jewel in your crown, you know.
Yeah.
And speaking of the jewel in the crown, I want to go to Dwayne over in beautiful Ohio. And I know Dwayne's been DJing a little bit less than some of us here and probably has not had a super huge wedding. But the thing is that I'm sure you've done some good-sized weddings and good-sized events. What's the biggest event you've done for size-wise? And then what did you use for equipment? How did you do conference for sound? What did you use for everything?
My weddings has been around, I would say the largest would be like 150, 200. But my biggest event would be, since I'm a music teacher, we have school events. So we have like the talent shows and school programs and all that. So what I would do is bring in my speakers mainly to for the sound for the audience in the front, but then I'll plug into our school gym's system as well. So you'll get that full sound. And also I played because I'm also a church musician, and there's a church here in Cleveland where they have their own like little auditorium that we performed at. So basically, when I did the music there, when we did a play, I was in the back, so I pumped the music through the house speakers, but also set up my speakers around on stage to act like monitors, so you still get the whole sound. And I want to say they used the old PB passive speakers, and my other church, I want to say they use EBs, but the EBs are like, they have a set, like a few rows, you know, it's staggered. So basically the sound is like spread out.
Yeah, they're doing multiple speakers, you know, lower levels to cover more, and that way you're not blaring out of the front. The front's really loud, in the back, no one can hear what's going on. And that is like a lot of churches do, that they'll have multiple speakers throughout, so they'll zone it. They'll have zone 1 is the main area where the sanctuary is at, and where you usually for me being Catholic, the priest would be, and you know, everyone else up front. You would have another zone a little further in for like the center pews. You would have another zone further back, and then another zone to cover the back part. If there's an upper level, a zone there. If there's like sometimes a crying room, my parish had a crying room, so there was sound in there, so you could hear the mass going on. So it's stuff like that, you know, that's multiple setups there, and those work really well if they're taken care of and they have good equipment. But I've also seen there's a guy I watch on YouTube, another sound guy. He does a lot with churches and stuff like that. And some of these churches, there was one church he went to, the cables going through the floor into a basement that it was basically a dungeon, and he's over with his phone, uses a flashlight, and I just, you know, I felt for the poor guy. You know, it's bad. Now Paul comes in, man. Now we got Australia coming. We had DJ Fire come in. Really quickly, Nathan, for you and Chris both celebrating winter still. You got your ugly sweater on. Chris has got a snow background on. You know, we're technically in spring.
It's cold out here. It's cold out here for another couple of days. So
yeah, it's supposed to. It's Friday here in Chicago. We're supposed to hit 70s, but I know next week we got one day. I think it's Monday or Tuesday. They're talking snow showers, not sticking snow, but snow showers, and high in the like upper 40s. So it's like, it's early spring. You know, April is around the corner. I got to move my van back to my casa because the place I rent ends April 1st. So I want to do that beforehand. And I have another wedding show this weekend, so probably gotta get the van washed and take it to that show. I I want to ask you, Nathan, really quickly, and Paul, thank you for coming in. You know you're a little bit late coming at the back. Thank God you're here. It's always good to see you, brother. Wanted to hit you really quick, Nathan. When you do big events, what is your equipment you use? What do you do? I'm talking about not 100 people or 200 people, 250, 300. And what is the largest amount of people you've used with your equipment? So, what have you used for your equipment on big events? How do you cover that big event with sound?
Are you wanting just sound, or are you wanting the lighting aspect too?
We'll talk a little bit about the lighting, but more of the sound right now. Just the sound part.
Well, I can tell you that I'm not using passive speakers anymore. I just bought two QSC speakers, but I'm not saying which ones yet. So a friend of mine's been trying to get me to go to QSC, and got to hear his over the weekend, and I just bought a set of QSCs today. So about $1,400. Practically brand. They're used, but they're practically brand new speakers. So pretty excited about that. I normally use anything over bigger than a wedding, like a school dance. Unless it's a huge wedding, which I haven't done a super huge wedding. But school dances, I like to have, 4 top speakers, your main speakers, or a minimum of 4. If it's big, 6. And then at least 2 18-inch subwoofers, or a dual 18, or 2 dual 18s, or something like that. I don't have any dual 18s yet. I've been doing kind of some research on the dual 18 from RCF and the dual 18 from JBL. And then I've been doing some research on Bass Boss, just trying to see what kind of different. I know I want to buy a dual something. I just don't know what yet. But
well, make sure you hook up with Matt, because Matt has purchased many duals and can tell you what ones that he likes, as well as he knows guys over at Bass Boss. I know a lot of guys who like Bass Boss. They like their tops. They do a ribbon. They have cool technology. They do a ribbon for a tweeter. So a little different technology than a normal horn tweeter that we're used to on a two-way cabinet. And they have some unique designs on their speakers and their tops. They have some cool stuff. So definitely would say talk to Matt, because they're in his backyard.
There's a guy down in Texas. He has a YouTube channel. What's his name? DJ Fiesta. You guys may have seen him. He runs 4 dual 18 Bass Boss subs. And one of the deals he did from a while back when he first got them, he did just a sub video, and I put my headphones on just so I could hear just the bass. Just 2 of those things was putting out some killer bass. That was just when he had 2. He's got 4 of them now. I think Bass Boss is roughly like $5,000 for a dual 18. That's some crazy money. You're talking $10,000 for 2 of those.
Well, the thing is that, do you really need a multiple dual 18s? If you're doing a crowd of 1,000 people, 800, 900.
Yes.
Matt
can't buy just one.
Matt's gonna say, yeah. Matt wants Krakens.
The only reason why I say when I buy something, I want to buy that. I'm thinking when I'm looking at the stage. Unless you put that subwoofer right in front of you, which a lot of people do, they set them right up in front of their facades or their booths, or even like Matt does, he puts his under his table, which is cool, hides it. But to have a balanced stage, if you're going to put one on this side and you're going to put like 2, like a dual 18 or a single 18 or 2 singles in the middle, then a dual, on the end. I've seen people take the duals and turn them vertical, because some of them have pull mounts on them, and then they put like VRX style speakers on.
And that's a question.
So just kind of thinking of the deal, like
do you have
different setup.
Do you have an event big enough for that? And then you run into events, small weddings that you use no sub for. It's one of the things, like, if Pete hasn't used subs as most of his career, and that's the thing, is that knowing what you need and what to do right doesn't mean one person's right or wrong. you have to look at things and having the right tool for the job. And Pete, you've been DJing for what, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years?
Since September of 1983.
There you go.
Before my time.
Yeah, I was in '83. I was in grade school. I was a little kid. So Pete's a couple
But,
years
yeah,
older
I
than
mean,
me. And then that's when he was
You're a
he was,
little
what,
kid. I was a
16?
freshman in college.
Oh, freshman in college. There you go.
I mean, I've been DJing with my seismic audio speakers that I pretty much converted to JBL, other than the seismic audio amplifier, which I've had tweaked a little bit at a place up in Champaign. But I mean, I'm wanting to upgrade. That's why I've upgraded to the QSCs, and I think I'm going to like them. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm still going to use the JBL speakers I bought off Buddy. I still like those for a smaller event. They're doing just fine.
But having multiple
I did
tools
have
in your toolbox is good.
I did have a tweeter go out last year, and it was actually at an event. Didn't even have them turned up, and all of a sudden I noticed kind of a sound like you were underwater, and I was like, "Sound like a tweeter's out." Well, I got over there and got in front of it. I'm like, "Yep." I was like, "Well, maybe the wire just came loose." So after the end of the event, I just took it home and took the plate off of it and realized that nothing was disconnected. So I had spare ones, so I just replaced them. And I don't know what JBL puts in there for stock on their Eon series, the 615s. I'm guessing they're probably only 500 watts or 250. I put 1,000-watt tweeters in it now, so hopefully they'll hold up a little better.
Yeah, you should. So, Paul, for you, sir, down in Australia, welcome back. Haven't seen you for a little bit. No sound. You got no sound.
No microphone.
Oh. He's a professional, folks. Don't worry about it. He has it covered. Give him a second or two there. He's got to figure it out. He hasn't been on for a bit. He forgot how to connect everything. He's probably got a wire disconnected. Got to do this.
Can you hear me now?
Now
There
I can
we
hear
go.
you, sir.
Hey.
There you go.
Okay.
Yes.
I did the age-old technician. I plugged it, pulled it out, and plugged it back in. So yeah.
There you go. Reset.
Yeah.
What's the biggest amount of people you've done at a wedding or an event? And when you get in a wedding that's like 250, 350, a bigger wedding, what do you go to? What's your go-to equipment? How do you cover a big wedding?
All right, 99.99% of my events are all under 170. So it's like, nothing sort of, super huge. And I've helped out at weddings where there's been 500 people, a Greek wedding and also a Syrian wedding and, Egyptian weddings and stuff where there's been hundreds of people. It's like, but it's not my gear. I'm just helping out a friend. But for me, it's like, generally, my LD, my LD Maui 28G3s will cover, 120 to 150 odd people. On the weekend I had a wedding. There was 80 people, it covered it, and I didn't even have to push them hard. That's like because it was a small crowd. So it was good. So. And you don't need to sort of, make everybody's eardrums bleed, and if you're just using, say a pair of two-way JBL tops, sort of, I guess for that amount of people, 80 to 100 odd people, you generally don't need subs. You can get away with it. The crowd is, not a huge crowd, so there's not that many, people that you have to push the audio through. So,
and that's the thing is that, again, having the right size tool for the right amount of people. And not everyone here has done bigger weddings. I know Paul's been DJing for quite a while. And again, another country, a little different thought on things, a little different way of doing things. But I feel the LD systems, the what you have there, the 28s, that is a good speaker. That's the next step up from the Maui 5s. That's a little bit bigger. And that's kind of closer to the J8s. And then like the 44s are the big ones. They have a 15-inch subwoofer. that right there would be kind of equal to my DB 1002s. So you again, having different tools, different stuff is great. But the 28s, I know Jeff has the 28s, and they're a good speaker. And I would never say don't look at them. I would definitely say if you're looking for an array and you want to look at speakers, LD is a great speaker to look at. EV, they have really cool technology. Again, I like my RCF. DB is another one. FBT, another great array system. And if you want to play the big boys, like the Sound Couple does, you start getting into those bigger arrays. I definitely would say I think they're a big supporter for the arrays, the way they use them. And again, like I said before, if you haven't done so already, their information will be down below. Follow them on their channel. Follow their journey. I love it. And when Stacy's sitting there, she always greets you with a smile in the van, in the passenger side. Now, I want to see you guys flip. I want to see her drive and Bart in the passenger seat and him come in on the show and do a gig log that way. I think that would blow people's minds.
Don't forget, there's also those speakers that Matt loves, the Krakens or whatever they are.
Oh, those are just
insanely huge speakers.
The subs, yes.
Release the Krakens.
Yeah, I forget what they call them. They had a unique
Kraken,
name. Matt
they
knows
the Kraken,
what I'm
and they
talking
got
about,
what's a new one, Matt?
Krakatoa.
The Krakatoa.
That's the one.
The Krakatoa.
They're not feasible for mobile use. I would say for a production company, maybe. I think like just to have a stack on each side for like a club would be. Are we still recording?
Yeah, we're still recording. Of course, we're still live.
Would be freaking insane then.
See, he caught himself. Yes, he didn't say a bad word. No editing afterwards. Oh, yes.
But I don't.
Yes.
Holy shnikes.
I do.
Yes, you can say
I
stuff
think,
like that. But
Like,
going
I
back
think-
to Bart and Stacey, when you guys are going to switch seats and have her drive and you come in on the show?
I was going to say, buddy, you just need to dig deep in the archives because they do exist.
Oh,
We do.
see, I got to watch older episodes.
It's called mirroring. Turn off the mirror.
But I always
The
love
Sound
watching
Couple.
them.
I think there's a TV series called The Sound Couple, The Early Years.
There you go. The Sound Couple, the early years, yeah. But I always love watching their videos. Usually have them come out on Saturday mornings, and if we're not doing anything, that's like when the first thing when I wake up, turn on YouTube on my 65-inch TV in the living room, and I watch them. Watch them do the craziness they do up there in the Twin Cities, as well as I watch my other friends, Matt with his stuff. Usually, most of the guys here, and when I watch the gig logs, usually it's my TV in the living room. And I get to watch you guys in 65 inches of pure 4K love. So it's always great. And that's why, I kind of feel that, with the Sound Couple, having them here, it's great because it's like I get to watch them and feel their pain and understand what they go through. And having them here with their expertise, it's always great. I want to thank them as well as everyone else being here tonight. Again, I'd like to thank you all for being out there and spending time with us. I see a couple of people said a few things. Mikey Mike said the largest event he ever did was a cheer competition. They had just shy of 300 people. That is cool. And he used 4 18-inch subs, 4 12-inch subs, then 8 12-inch tops, and 8 15-inch tops. I think you probably had zoned for different areas of the competition, hopefully, because that would be acoustically a lot of phasing going on, a lot of frequencies and power alleys, which you don't want to have a lot of power alleys. That's never good. But Mike, I know you know your stuff, so I'm not worried about that too much. I want to thank everyone here again. I thank the panel as always, and thank you for watching. Again, I said it before, I'm the host, Buddy Mueller. If you guys haven't watched the show before, thank you for coming in, and we appreciate you here. And we're going to have the Sound Couple on again in the not too distant future. It's great bringing them on here because, again, their expertise and how they do things is always awesome. And I love just seeing the two of them. They're always happy, and they're just great people. Again, follow them. They're a loving couple. I wish my wife was here. I'd give her a big hug because she's awesome too. And And again, tonight when you go home, make sure, or you're at home, watch this, make sure you follow everyone on the social media. But since Paul came back from being away for a little bit, Paul, you want to take us out tonight?
Indeed. Hey, thanks for joining us here at the DJ Roundtable, the global edition. We hope to catch you next week. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and like Brian S. Red says, keep on practicing and, yeah.
Practice and enjoy. That's what he says. Yep.
That's the one, yeah.
Yep, practice and enjoy. That's Brian S. Red. Great guy. Go watch him, too. You guys have a good night. Oh, well, Mike, don't forget Mike. He also says that stuff, too. But, yeah, Mike said, how about me? You know, Mike's a great guy. Make sure you follow him and his social media, too, down there. And, again, I'm sure he'll say something on the video on YouTube. Other than that, guys, you have a good night. We'll continue on in the after hour. We'll talk. But you guys have a good night tonight.